Welcome to the deep dive. Forget slogging through endless tasks or feeling buried under mountains of data. Today we're exploring how AI automation, powered by something as simple as, well, everyday conversation, is changing the game for how we work.
Exactly. We've really immersed ourselves in notes and excerpts from a recent presentation. It was called Streamline Your Workload Using AI Automation, delivered just this month by Andrew Leong Fern. And this wasn't just theory, it was grounded in real-world needs.
Absolutely. We know folks like Pam and L&D and HR were there already thinking about using AI to make sense of their data and get their training materials organized.
Right.
And Renika, also in L&D, was keen to see what tools were actually out there.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer uses AI to prep for her training sessions. And Jessica, who's involved in learning for a hotel franchise, she was looking at the bigger picture, automation in general.
Yeah, these are people facing the same kinds of challenges you might be facing right now. And that's precisely our mission today. We want to pull out the most valuable insights from this presentation and show you how AI automation, well, as Andrew presented it, can be a concrete, practical tool. We're talking about reclaiming your time, maybe getting ahead of potential headaches, and tackling those complex projects that might currently feel a bit out of reach.
Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks then. When we say AI automation, what does that actually mean in a way that's, easy to grasp?
In simple terms, it's using artificial intelligence to handle tasks with very little input needed from you. The exciting shift, the real breakthrough, is that we're now seeing this happen through natural conversational language.
So you just talk to it.
Pretty much. You can literally tell the AI what you need in plain English, whether you're typing or even speaking. And this just opens up a world of possibilities for everyone, not just, the tech experts who know how to code.
So it's like having this incredibly capable assistant you can just have a chat with to get things done. Now, the presentation also touched on different flavors of AI, didn't it?
It did, yeah. They made a distinction between AI assistants and AI agents. The focus today, and this mirrored the presentation, is squarely on AI assistants.
Okay.
Think of these as tools where, well, you're the conductor. You define the specific steps you want the AI to take to complete a task.
Right.
They're fantastic for executing processes you've already laid out.
Yeah, agents are different.
AI agents, yeah, they're designed to be more independent. You give them a goal, and they figure out the best way to achieve it, maybe even making decisions along the way. Much more autonomous.
Got it. Okay. So assistants are about you setting the stage, directing the action. Makes sense. Now, why should anyone even be thinking about bringing AI automation into their workflow? What are the real tangible benefits here?
Well, the presentation highlighted 3 key wins. First, and perhaps most immediately appealing, is just the sheer time you can save.
On those repetitive tasks.
Exactly. Those things that just drain your energy and your day. This is what they call the low-hanging fruit,
Yeah.
right? But imagine reclaiming hours, literally hours each week. Time you could then dedicate to higher-level thinking, strategic initiatives that really drive results.
Yes, nobody enjoys those tasks that feel like they're just on an endless loop. Definitely. Okay, what's the second big advantage?
The second is the power to see potential problems coming down the line before they actually hit.
Like predicting issues.
Sort of. They use a really compelling example in managing relationships with suppliers, supply chain vendor management. Imagine an AI constantly monitoring the financial health of your vendors, keeping an eye out for potential shipping delays every day, maybe even every hour.
Wow.
That kind of proactive insight, it can prevent a lot of crises and just keep things running much more smoothly.
That's like having a data-powered early warning system.
Okay.
And the third key benefit.
Tackling complex tasks, the kind of stuff that would be virtually impossible for a human to handle efficiently.
Like what?
Think about analyzing massive amounts of data simultaneously, like hundreds of thousands of data points.
Right. No way one person could do that.
Exactly. No person can do that effectively. But AI can sift through these vast data sets, identify patterns, extract insights, things that would otherwise just remain hidden. It could reveal crucial opportunities or, risks.
Okay, so we're talking about getting back valuable time, getting a heads up on potential issues, and unlocking insights from just overwhelming amounts of information. That's pretty compelling. Now, the presentation made a point of differentiating between different types of AI platforms, focusing particularly on one called Strategy.ai. What's the core difference we need to understand there?
Yeah, the essential distinction they made was between closed and open AI platforms. Strategy.ai was presented as a closed system.
Okay, closed system. What does that mean practically?
What it means is that when you ask it a question or give it a task, it doesn't go searching the entire internet for information.
Ah.
Instead, it only draws upon content that has been specifically reviewed, approved, and curated by you or your organization.
So it's like your own private knowledge base.
Exactly. Think of it as your own private, meticulously organized knowledge base that the AI can tap into, your trusted stuff.
Right. So it's like having a super smart research assistant who only uses your vetted resources. What makes this closed approach so advantageous then?
Well, they highlighted several key benefits. First, it significantly reduces the risk of bias.
Because you control the inputs.
Precisely. You're controlling the sources of information. Second, it ensures greater consistency and accuracy of the content because it's all coming from reliable material you've approved. And perhaps most importantly for many businesses, it offers enhanced security and privacy. Your sensitive data, the questions you ask, they aren't used to train public AI models.
That definitely addresses a lot of the concerns people have, about sharing sensitive information with AI. Huge deal. And the alternative you mentioned is open platforms.
Exactly. Open platforms, like, say, the widely used version of ChatGPT, they access the vast, often unfiltered information landscape of the internet. Now, while this can provide a broad range of information, it also introduces potential problems. Things like accuracy issues, the risk of biases creeping in from all sorts of online sources, inconsistencies in the information. And of course, that concern that your proprietary data might be used in ways you haven't agreed to.
Right. It's the difference between getting advice from like a carefully selected panel of experts versus asking a random crowd on the street. Yeah, it makes sense. Now, to really make this concrete, the presentation shared some real-world examples of how this kind of automation can actually be applied. Let's dig into those. The first one was in marketing, right? Analyzing Instagram data.
Yeah, this was a really compelling example. It showed how AI can take a really time-consuming, repetitive task and make it incredibly efficient. So there was this major manufacturer, billion-dollar company, faucets and showers.
Okay.
And they wanted to regularly analyze literally thousands of Instagram posts. They needed to understand how consumers were talking about their brand and their main competitors.
Yeah.
Names like Delta, Moen, Kohler.
That sounds like the kind of task that would normally take, well, a significant amount of time and people power.
Yeah.
How did AI automation streamline this?
Get this. The initial setup to create the automation within Strategy.ai took around 30 minutes.
30 minutes, wow.
And once it was built, running the analysis took about a minute, just 1 minute.
Incredible.
And it could even be scheduled to run automatically, say, monthly.
Okay, where did the data come from?
The data they used came from Instagram comments. They gathered it using a separate tool designed to automatically collect data from websites, web scraping, essentially, a digital way to gather publicly available info.
Okay, so they fed this raw comment data into the AI. What kind of instructions did they give it then? What did they ask it to do?
Well, the first step was to identify the key themes emerging from the comments. They gave it a prompt like, "You are an expert in market research and data analysis. Please identify the main topics and themes consumers are discussing in these Instagram comments about our brand and our competitors." So instead of someone manually reading through thousands of comments, the analyst could then focus on validating if the AI's identified themes actually aligned with their marketing strategy, and then analyzing those emerging trends.
That's a huge leap in efficiency right there. Just massive. And the AI didn't stop there, get it?
No, it went further. The AI actually recommended conducting both sentiment analysis and an analysis of engagement metrics.
Okay, sentiment analysis. How did that work?
For sentiment, they instructed the AI to score each comment on a scale from many to 1, so very negative, up to +1, very positive,
Yeah.
and then calculate an average sentiment score for each brand. So for example, maybe Grow scored, say, 0.31, while Kohler was lower at 0.18. This gave the analyst a quantifiable way to track how brand perception changed over time and maybe see if their marketing campaigns were actually having the desired effect.
It's fascinating to see something as nuanced as, well, sentiment distilled into a numerical score like that.
Yeah.
And what about the engagement analysis part?
For engagement, the AI compared the number of likes and comments each brand received on their posts, highlighting any significant differences.
Like discrepancies.
Exactly. For instance, a brand might have tons of likes, but very few comments, or maybe the other way around. This discrepancy could indicate something interesting, right? So it prompts the analyst to ask the AI to investigate further. They might ask, for example, investigate Kohler. What could be the reasons for the difference between their likes and comments?
So the AI isn't just spitting out data, it's actually guiding the analyst to ask more strategic, more insightful questions. That's clever. What was the ongoing value of setting this whole thing up?
Well, they could run this analysis every month. Have the AI compare results to previous months to spot trends, look for mentions related to competitor announcements. They could even compare the Instagram data with data from other social platforms, Facebook, X, whatever, to get a more holistic view of different audience segments. Ultimately, it just freed up the marketing analysts from that tedious work of manually sifting through data. It allowed them to focus on the strategic implications, the so what of the findings, and make much more informed decisions.
That's a really powerful example. It shows how AI can enhance human expertise rather than just replacing it. They also shared another example, didn't they, from talent management, focusing on matching employee skills to required competencies. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, this scenario involved a hypothetical company, but it was very practical. They were looking to streamline how managers support the development of their team members. The goal was to create an AI assistant that could automate the process of identifying skill gaps. Gaps between an employee's current skills and the competencies needed for their role.
Okay.
And then, crucially, suggest relevant development opportunities, just like a human talent development specialist might do, but, automated.
What was the time investment like to set up this kind of automation? Similar to the marketing one.
It took a bit longer, maybe around 60 minutes, to build the automation initially. Not bad at all. But here's the thing. Once it was set up, it could analyze the competency gaps for all employees in the company in under 5 minutes.
Wow, for everyone in under 5 minutes.
Yep. And the crucial aspect here, again, was leveraging the company's internal data within that secure, closed environment of Strategy.ai.
Right, that closed system is key.
Yeah.
What kind of internal data were they actually using for this?
They pulled from a variety of internal sources. Things like job descriptions, obviously, the company's defined competency models, anonymized historical performance reviews, the company's overall strategic priorities, a catalog of courses available in their LMS, their learning management system,
Okay.
and even data related to their products. That's a lot of different pieces of information for a human to try and synthesize effectively.
It certainly is. How did they structure the automation to make sense of all that information?
They followed a pretty logical process. First, they clearly defined the desired outcome, identifying gaps, suggesting resources. Simple enough. Second, they selected and prepared the relevant data sources within the platform. Got the right info lined up.
Yeah.
Third, they started kind of broad. They set broad goals and asked the AI for its suggested approach to the analysis. Like, how would you tackle this?
Interesting. Letting the AI propose the method.
Exactly. And then finally, they reviewed the AI's proposed steps, tweaked the prompts and instructions as needed, and actually minimized some of the initial steps that just displayed intermediate data once they felt confident in the AI's accuracy.
So they streamlined it once they trusted it.
Yeah. The platform often shows more detail initially, for transparency, to let you see how it's working.
And they walked through a simulated example too,
Yeah.
right? What did that look like in practice for, say, an employee?
Yes, they did. So the automation began by identifying the employee's role, let's say a customer care associate. Based on the company's competency model for that role, the AI listed the relevant skills and abilities needed. Standard stuff. Next, it analyzed a sample performance review for that specific employee, highlighting areas where there might be development opportunities. Maybe things like emotional intelligence and problem solving.
Right, common areas.
Then, taking into account the company's strategic priorities, perhaps emotional intelligence was flagged as high priority gap to address for that role or that individual.
Okay, so it prioritizes too.
Exactly. And finally, the AI recommended specific, relevant courses right from the company's learning management system, like maybe a course specifically titled Emotional Intelligence, to help the employee develop in that specific high-priority area.
So a manager would automatically receive this kind of analysis for each person on their team.
Exactly. The output gets automatically sent to the manager. It gives them this valuable, objective resource for their one-on-one development discussions.
That can make those conversations much more focused.
Totally. It also demonstrates the tangible value that the talent management function provides to the business. And interestingly, it might even encourage managers to provide better, more detailed feedback and performance reviews, knowing that the data is actually being used effectively to support employee growth.
These examples really make the potential of AI automation come alive. Really practical stuff.
Yeah.
Now, the presentation also went into the nuts and bolts of how you actually build these automations within the Strategy.ai platform itself. What are the key things we should know about that process?
Yeah, they highlighted two primary modes, build mode and simulate mode.
Build mode first.
Right, build mode is where you design the individual steps of your automated process. These steps can be user tasks, which, require a human to input info or make a decision.
Okay.
Or AI tasks, where the AI performs a specific action. For these AI tasks, you provide really clear instructions, much like writing prompts for any large language model.
And you tell it what data to use.
Exactly. You specify exactly which data sources the AI should draw upon for that particular step. And importantly, you can also reference the results from earlier steps in the sequence, so you create this logical flow for the whole automation.
Okay, that makes sense. Build the steps, tell it what to do, what data to use, and then to make sure it's working correctly, you need to test it right.
Yeah.
That's where simulate mode comes in.
Precisely. Simulate mode lets you run a test version of your automation. You can see the output at each stage, evaluate whether the whole process is working the way you intended.
So you can catch errors or refine it.
Exactly. It's very much an iterative process. You'll likely switch back and forth between build and simulate modes, tweaking your instructions, maybe adding or removing data sources, just generally refining the automation until it delivers the results you want reliably.
It sounds like there's definitely an initial investment of time and effort required to get these automations set up correctly. It's not instant magic.
Oh, absolutely. It might take a few hours, maybe even a day sometimes, to create a really robust and effective automation, especially for more complex tasks, no doubt. But the long-term payoff, that's the key. It's the potential to save significant amounts of time, potentially hundreds, even thousands of hours on the back end,
Right.
while also enabling analyses and tasks that, frankly, just wouldn't be feasible to do manually. And as you gain confidence in the AI's performance, you can even streamline the automation by hiding some of those intermediate steps. Focus only on the final, most relevant output.
That makes perfect sense. Start with full transparency to build trust in the process, then optimize it for efficiency later.
Smart. Now, a good presentation always includes a Q&A session, and it sounds like the attendees had some really important questions. Let's touch on some of those key insights, starting with concerns around data security and privacy. Jessica raised concerns about the security and confidentiality of sensitive company data. I mean, it's a big topic, especially with all the open AI tools being used everywhere. Andrew really emphasized that Strategy.ai's fundamental design as a closed system is specifically intended to address these very concerns. Your data remains your proprietary information. It's secure and confidential within your organization's controlled environment.
So it stays internal.
Yes. The AI only generates responses based on the information you explicitly provide it, not by searching the open internet. And crucially, your data is never used to train external AI models. That's a big one.
That's a really critical differentiator and probably puts a lot of minds at ease. Definitely.
What about the practicalities of dealing with large volumes of data? Jessica also asked about how the platform handles this, especially in relation to something called context windows. What's the deal there?
Yeah, good question. Andrew explained that Strategy.ai is architected to handle very large data sets. He mentioned clients managing thousands upon thousands of files within the system.
Wow. The platform uses some sophisticated mechanisms, apparently, to process and manage this data efficiently. It minimizes the limitations that some other AI platforms might hit with their context windows, which basically just refers to the amount of information the AI can actively process at any one time.
So scale isn't really an issue then.
It sounds like scalability isn't a major limitation with this platform, no.
And with the potential for multiple departments within an organization using a system like this, how is access to potentially sensitive information controlled? You don't want marketing seeing HR's private files, for instance.
Right, critical point. They have implemented multiple layers of security for that. First, access to a specific workspace within the platform is controlled through workspace membership, so only authorized people can even get into that workspace's data.
Okay, basic access control.
Yep. Second, they use something called information-based access controls, or IBC. This lets you tag files with specific security levels.
Like confidential or public.
Exactly. Users are then only able to access files that have a security level at or below their own authorized level. And this can even integrate with existing role-based permission systems a company might already have.
Nice.
Third, for highly sensitive data, individual workspaces can be configured for chat-only access, which further restricts how the information can be used.
So you can ask questions, but maybe not download.
Something like that restricts the interaction. And finally, of course, administrator roles provide overall control over platform settings and user management. Think of it like different levels of access within a secure digital vault.
And it sounds like they've built in quite robust security measures. Good to know. Another aspect Jessica inquired about was controlling what content the AI can access on public versus internal websites, especially for chatbots.
Yes, that's important for external-facing bots. For chatbots that might be deployed on, say, your public website, you have the ability to specifically whitelist the URL of that website where the chatbot will be embedded. This ensures the AI only draws information from that specific approved site, keeps it contained. Additionally, if a workspace within Strategy.ai isn't explicitly configured to be accessible to anyone on the internet, then the data within that workspace remains entirely internal and inaccessible externally. Default is private.
Got it. Okay. Moving on to the more practical aspects of actually using the platform, Pam asked about the various ways you can get your data into the system. Is it just a matter of manually uploading files all the time?
No, definitely not just manual uploads, although that's certainly an option. Andrew outlines several other convenient methods. The platform can be set up to automatically synchronize with SharePoint sites. So any updates in your SharePoint get reflected in Strategy.ai, keeps things current. For integration with other systems, they offered the possibility of developing an API. Think of that as a digital connector that lets different software talk to each other and swap data.
Okay, for more custom setups.
Right. They also mentioned Zapier as a potential go-between if both Strategy.ai and your other platform connect to it. That can automate data transfer between them.
Zapier's pretty common.
It is. And finally, for really large data sets, they support data dumps that the AI can process. The analyzed output could then potentially be sent to other data viz tools if you need that.
Lots of options then.
Yeah.
Good. Ramika had a question about analyzing and comparing data from different social media platforms. Can the platform handle that, like comparing Instagram versus TikTok?
Absolutely. The suggested approach is pretty logical. You'd create separate automations designed specifically to gather and analyze data from each individual platform. So one for Instagram, another for Facebook, maybe one for X, TikTok, and so on.
Okay, one automation per platform.
Right. Once you have this data collected and analyzed within the platform, you could then build a separate subsequent automation. This one would take the analyzed data from each of those sources and perform a comparative analysis across all of them.
So a meta-analysis almost.
Kinda, yeah. Comparing the outputs.
And what about tailoring the AI's voice or tone? Ramika asked about this too. Can you make it sound more formal or maybe more casual depending on the context?
Yes, definitely. There are a couple of ways to influence the AI's communication style. There's a feature called My POV point of view, which lets you set a general context or persona for the AI.
Like a default setting.
Sort of. You could specify, for example, I work in a highly regulated industry and need the AI to respond with a formal and cautious tone. And this general setting will influence its overall interactions.
Okay.
But for more granular control, say within specific automations, you can include explicit instructions about the desired tone right within each individual AI task prompt.
In the instructions for that step.
Exactly. You might say, explain this concept in a concise and easy to understand way as if you were talking to someone with no prior knowledge of the subject, or adopt a more technical tone here.
It's very flexible. Ramika also had a really interesting idea about integrating this tech into e-learning courses. Could you embed a chatbot powered by Strategy.ai directly within an LMS, a learning management system?
Yeah, that was a great question. And the answer is likely yes, if the LMS supports embedding external content using what are called iframes.
Iframes, like embedding a YouTube video.
Exactly like that. It's a common web standard. So the process would be, you upload the relevant course materials and knowledge base into a workspace within Strategy.ai. Then you get the embed code for the chat widget from Strategy.ai. And finally, you paste that code into the desired page within your LMS course.
And learners could just chat with it.
Yeah. Learners would then be able to interact with the AI chatbot, asking questions and getting answers based specifically on the content you loaded into that workspace.
That could provide a fantastic layer of on-demand personalized learning support. Really cool. Now, Jessica was also keen to know about the reliability of the information the AI provides. Does the platform offer any way to verify the sources of its answers? Like, where did it get that from?
Yes, absolutely. Transparency and verifiability are key, Andrew stressed. The platform provides source citations for the information it uses to generate answers.
So you can see the original document.
Typically, yes. You can often view snippets of the original source document directly within the platform or download the full source file for a closer look. Sometimes you can even see the source live on screen, taking you right to the specific page or section where the info came from.
That's crucial for building trust.
Totally. And they also have a very useful comment on source feature. This lets users provide feedback if they spot any inaccuracies or maybe outdated information in a source document.
Oh, so you can flag issues.
Right. And that feedback gets routed directly to the owner of that file within the system, so it can be addressed, closes the loop.
That level of transparency is really important. What about tracking how the platform is being used overall? Can you see what questions people are asking or what content is getting accessed most frequently?
Yes, the Workspace dashboard provides valuable analytics on that. There's a Questions and Sentiment tab that displays a log of all the questions asked within that workspace and where they originated from.
And you can export that.
Yep, that data can be easily exported for further analysis. There's also a Usage and Files tab, which tracks how often each file in the workspace is being accessed and used by the AI to generate answers.
Ah, so you can see what's popular or maybe what's missing.
Exactly. It helps you identify your most valuable content or perhaps areas where you might need to add more information. Useful for content curation.
It sounds like they've really considered the administrative and analytical side of things too, not just the flashy AI part. They also mentioned something called a global chat feature. How does that work? Sounds powerful.
It is potentially very powerful. The global chat feature lets users ask questions and get answers that draw upon information from all the workspaces within the platform.
All of them.
All the ones they have been granted permission to access, importantly.
Aha, permissions still apply.
Yes, permissions are key. But it's incredibly useful for breaking down information silos within a larger organization. It lets employees find answers across different departments, different knowledge areas.
Like a company-wide search, almost?
Kind of, but smarter because it's conversational and respects all the access controls and security levels set at the workspace level. So a user will only ever retrieve info from workspaces they're actually authorized to view.
Makes sense. And what about the sidebar chat feature? What's the purpose of that one?
The sidebar chat is a feature specifically designed to enhance presentations.
Ah, for when you're giving a talk.
Exactly. When you're delivering a presentation, you can have this chat panel open alongside your slides. Attendees can type questions into this panel, and the chat can be linked to specific workspaces or use that global chat functionality we just talked about. It allows you to address questions in real time using the collective knowledge stored within the platform.
Interactive presentations powered by the company's knowledge base. Neat idea. Beyond just the technical capabilities, it sounds like the attendees also had some really creative ideas about how they could actually use this technology in their day-to-day work. Some real brainstorming happened.
Absolutely. Ramika, who works in L&D, had a great idea about automating aspects of course content creation.
Oh yeah, like what?
Imagine being able to input just a general course topic, and the AI could then generate initial outlines, maybe suggest key learning objectives, even draft some content for different formats like e-learning modules or instructor-led training materials, all based on established instructional design principles. You've fed it.
Wow, that could really accelerate the course development process. Speed things up significantly.
For sure. And the idea of an internal Ask HR chatbot came up too. That seems like a total no-brainer for many organizations, right?
Absolutely. Every company could use that.
Andrew agreed enthusiastically. You just upload all the relevant HR documents, employee handbooks, policies, benefits info, FAQs into a dedicated workspace. Then embed a chatbot on the company intranet. Employees could get instant answers to a huge range of their HR-related questions.
Which would free up the actual HR team.
Exactly. Significantly reduce the volume of routine inquiries that the HR team has to handle manually. Let them focus on more complex issues.
Jessica, with her background in learning for that hotel franchise, was thinking about analyzing training survey data better. That can be such a manual slog.
Oh, yeah, analyzing open-ended feedback especially. So you could upload the raw data from training surveys or even qualitative feedback from places like LinkedIn related to your training programs.
Okay.
Then you instruct the AI on your specific analysis goals. Maybe identify key areas where learners felt the training was most effective or find themes in the areas suggested for improvement.
Right.
The AI could then perform that analysis, helping you make really data-driven decisions about how to refine and enhance your training offerings, much faster than reading every single comment.
Definitely. They also touched on improving the onboarding process for new franchisees and even language translation.
Yeah, for new franchise onboarding, you could create a dedicated chatbot containing all the essential info they need to get started. SOPs, FAQs, best practices.
Instant answers 24/7.
Exactly. Provide immediate support and guidance. And regarding language, the platform supports around 80 different languages.
80. Wow.
Yeah. So if your core content is in English, but a user asks a question in, say, Spanish or French, the AI can often translate the relevant information and respond in the user's preferred language on the fly.
That's impressive. Any caveats?
Well, while it's generally quite accurate, they did recommend maybe piloting this feature for highly specialized or technical jargon first, just to ensure the nuances are captured correctly. Always wise with translation.
Makes sense. Okay, let's get to the really practical side of things. How do you actually get access to a platform like this? Pam and Jessica had questions about pricing structures and trial options, naturally.
Yeah, the bottom line questions. Andrew mentioned that a free trial of Strategy.ai is available. You can just go to their website, and they can even enable some of the more advanced features like the automation capabilities we've been talking about for trial users if you request it. So you can really kick the tires and see its potential.
That's good. A proper trial.
They also offer something called complimentary boot camps for teams. This sounds quite involved. Includes some pre-work to identify potential AI use cases in your organization, then a working session to brainstorm and maybe develop initial automation ideas, and then you get a 30-day proof of concept period on the platform to actually try things out.
So quite a bit of support to get started.
Seems like it.
And what does the pricing model look like after the trial period? Is it per user?
No, importantly, not per user. Their pricing is based on an annual workspace fee. Andrew quoted around $9,600 per workspace per year,
Okay.
with discounts available if an organization needs multiple workspaces.
Right.
In addition to that base fee, there's a usage-based fee tied to AI credits consumed. This will depend on, the volume and complexity of the questions and prompts you're running through it.
So usage matters.
Yes, features like the chatbots, the embeddable widgets, the sidebar presentation tool, those are included in the workspace fee. The more advanced automation functionality, however, might be an additional annual fee, potentially around $10,000 for company-wide access to that specific feature set.
Okay, so a base fee plus usage and maybe an extra for the heavy automation, since it's not per user.
Right. Multiple departments within an organization could potentially share single workspace to manage costs effectively, as long as the access controls meet their needs.
Good point. What about training and ongoing support for users once they're on board?
They provide various learning resources and initial onboarding support as part of the standard package. You get help getting started. For more extensive ongoing support, maybe help on specific complex projects or dedicated proactive assistance, a monthly fee might apply. It depends on the level of support you actually need.
Okay, standard practice for enterprise software. Finally, Jessica raised a really important question, one I'm sure many people listening are thinking about. What is the long-term impact of AI automation on roles like those in L&D? If AI can handle so much, will there still be a need for these professionals? It's the big elephant in the room.
It really is. And Andrew's perspective was, I think, quite reassuring. He believes that, much like when e-learning or other technologies came along, AI will likely lead to an evolution of roles rather than widespread elimination, at least in the near term.
Evolution, not elimination.
That was the message. He envisions AI taking over the more data-intensive, the more repetitive tasks, the grunt work, basically. This frees up L&D professionals to focus on higher-level strategic thinking, more innovative instructional design, and the crucial human and social aspects of learning, especially for programs that really need that personal touch, that facilitation skill.
So shifting focus to higher value activities.
Exactly. Roles in areas like graphic design, video production, they might also evolve, perhaps towards refining AI-generated drafts or producing a greater volume of good enough content, rather than just focusing on a few highly polished key pieces.
Interesting. More iteration, maybe?
Potentially. Overall, the expectation is a significant increase in efficiency and productivity for L&D teams.
Right.
Doing more, maybe doing different things. The key, he emphasized, will be managing this change effectively, helping people understand how AI can augment their capabilities, not just replace them.
And how do you do that?
Well, perhaps by introducing easy-to-use AI tools first, like maybe those internal chatbots, to build familiarity and demonstrate the benefits in a non-threatening way. change management is crucial.
Absolutely. This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into the world of AI automation, especially seeing how it's being made accessible through platforms like Strategy.ai. It's really clear that these tools offer significant opportunities to streamline workflows, gain deeper insights from data, and ultimately give knowledge workers back that most precious commodity time.
And the fact that you can interact with these powerful capabilities using just natural, everyday language, that's a real game changer. It breaks down those barriers that might have previously existed for people without specialized technical skill.
Definitely lowers the barrier to entry. And the emphasis on closed systems also directly addresses some of the biggest worries people have. Data security, privacy, the accuracy of information. That's particularly vital when you're dealing with sensitive organizational knowledge.
Couldn't agree more. And the real-world examples we explored in marketing and talent management, along with that whole range of potential use cases we discussed, they truly illustrate the transformative power that AI automation can bring to so many different aspects of how we work.
So here's a final thought for you, our listener, to consider. Think about those tasks in your daily or weekly routine, the ones that feel repetitive, the ones that involve wrestling with data, or the ones that just seem to take up far more time than they really should. Could AI automation offer a way to reimagine and streamline those processes? And if you could reclaim that time, what new strategic opportunities could you and your organization pursue?
Yeah, what could you do with that extra time and brain space?
We encourage you to explore platforms like Strategy.ai and to really start thinking about the evolving role that technology can play and likely will play in your field. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.